Hey, this is Mike Wolf here at the Food IT event here in San Francisco, talking to Kevin Brown with Innit. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about what Innit does?
Sure. Innit is a connected food company. We connect the information about food throughout the food journey of how do I plan, shop, prep, and cook. And we bring that all the way to the smart kitchen where we can have information about your chicken, and then your chicken can talk to the oven. And we'll walk you through the steps of preparing it, and then you press send to oven. We'll send a 14-step Michelin star recipe, so it comes out great every time.
So when we look at the kitchen, it's lagged behind other rooms like the living room in terms of digitization, but you know our research, and I think you've seen research that shows people are using digital iPads and iPhones in the kitchen. They're looking for recipes online. Are we moving towards a time where we start to see maybe a platform or like an operating system that helps kind of connect the different appliances? Talk a little bit about that.
We've seen this in every single industry. So every industry that's digitized, music, movies, video tapes, taxi cabs, all of these are all centered around software platforms. So all of them need something to connect that industry. And so what we're seeing in the food industry is that now it needs to connect, and it needs to connect to the kitchen to help people prepare that food. And so that's what we've been working 5 years to put together, is a platform that can take all that information and really help the consumer have a successful journey.
And so you work with food companies, you work with appliance companies. I know one of the appliance companies that you do work with, you guys announced not too long ago, is Electrolux.
Yeah,
so
that's
you guys
right.
have kind of gone from the North American market, you're starting to make inroads into Europe?
That's right. This is a global opportunity. So we're working with 4 of the top 6 appliance companies, 2 of the top 3 food companies, and we have a big partnership with Google. We're really proud to be working with them. So we're tying together all the information so that the consumer now has a single way to go from the question of what's for dinner, help me with the step-by-step preparation and guide me through that, even if I'm missing some of the skills. And then finally, helping get it right every single night. People are just really scared about ruining dinner and then really having a dinner disaster where they don't know what to do. So if we can make that more successful, make them more confident, we can have a big impact to help people cook more and save more.
When we're talking about consumer markets, getting consumers to ultimately change their behavior, we know that they're using more digital tools in the kitchen like iPads, but using platforms and software to help them do things like guided cooking, for example, or whatever. That's the big task. So how do we get towards conversion? What are some of your thoughts around getting consumers to ultimately adopt some of the tools that you're building as in part of their workflow and part of their meal planning?
So we've started out, we have a free application that people can download, and whether or not they have any smart appliances, they can now get guidance with those questions of what's for dinner, how do I get personalized recommendations, personalized nutrition, how do I build a meal based on the things I have or that I want to eat, how do I get step-by-step video guidance that's tailored to what I'm doing, and then finally, as I start to have more and more smart devices that can participate, how do I have a single control panel for that instead of opening up 7 different apps to try and make dinner? How do I have a single journey that I can look to? We're working together with all of the partners to make sure that it's not just us. There's many different services, many different people in the ecosystem. How can we pull that together for the consumer?
So there's lots of steps along the way for a consumer when they're making that meal journey, whether it's like shopping for the food, looking in the pantry, thinking about at 4 o'clock when you're hungry, prepping and then cooking, and you're trying to insert yourself in every step along the way, either through partnerships or through your app, so you'll kind of bring them into what you're doing?
We saw there was a big gap. You could open up a lot of different tools to you go get some videos, you could research some nutrition, you could look up recipes, you could try to remote control your devices, but having to do that in a piecemeal fashion was never going to be the end game. People need something that takes them through that journey and that can do it on a repeatable basis.
One of the macro trends in the world of food tech is we're hearing a lot about, and I think health as well, is personalization, right? So this idea of mass market food all created in one factory, shipped out, and we all buy the same thing, that's probably ultimately going away as we get towards this world where, based on our own usage patterns, based on our own kind of biomarkers, we may ultimately get meals very specific towards us, either in a restaurant or in the home. Talk about this idea of personalization and how Innit is kind of trying to plug into that trend.
There's nothing that's more personal than food. So this is really something that everyone's got different diets, everyone's got different tastes, everyone's got different needs, and then you try to do that across a family. It's really complicated for a lot of people, and there's been no tools to help them do that. So we acquired the top personalized nutrition company that was helping people every day with this called Shopwell. So we've now integrated that. We're going to be coming out with more and more features. But now when you start a journey within it, it begins with personalization. So we ask you about your diets. We ask you about what foods you like or dislike. We learn as you're choosing. And so every single decision, we don't want to make it complicated, but invisibly underneath that, we want that to reflect the really personal nature of what you want to eat.
And you talked about Shopwell there. I think also that's an app where I can envision where I would be shopping, and maybe you can help me along with that. So talk about this idea of connecting the shopping experience with ultimately the home cooking experience, because I think there's a direct digital line there. Talk about that.
This is something that no one has really done before, and we're going to be talking more about, is that you start with this basket full of a bunch of random different products that you dumped off the shelf, and now you're trying to bring that home and turn that into some dinner. Or maybe you started out with a recipe that was written down on a piece of paper. Things are going to totally invert. So now you're going to start to say, hey Google or Alexa, let's make lasagna. And that's going to turn into a shoppable recipe that then is driving an order of food. And how do you choose the right foods? How do you have that personalized? Once those individual food items get to the home, how do you make the most of each of those? Help people with preparing them, with tips, how to use them, and ultimately programming the devices to cook them perfectly. So all of this is going to happen, and we're doing it right now. So this isn't 10 years from now. That data-infused journey that starts with the food product and ends with great dinner on your plate, that is the end game, we think, for how do you connect the food industry to the smart kitchen, and that's what we've been spending 5 years doing. So we're really excited about the next steps here.
You unveiled the Innit app last year, and so now that it's been out in the field, you're seeing the usage data. What are some of the lessons you've learned? Anything interesting or surprising?
It's pretty amazing. When people go through, the first wow moment is, instead of just getting one of the millions of recipes on the web and having to kind of adapt to the recipe, that doesn't work that well anymore. People have diets, they're trying to go low carb, they're allergic to this, they don't have that. And so now we've taken the recipe and made every single bit of it essentially customizable. So you can swap things in and out. You can basically build a meal around the things that you have and what you want to eat. So we've deconstructed that so that recipe construct helps us get inspiration. But now we turn that into a real meal that you can cook. And then we can follow along that journey with the step-by-step guidance, with the cooking instruction tailored to those specific products. And so that's the detail that needs to get built in to actually get great results and put it on the plate.
Great. Well, where can more people find out about Innit?
So you can come to innit.com. You can download our free app on the App Store or Play Store. And we're really proud to be working with many of our partners. So you'll see more and more of those connections happening as we're helping those companies connect consumers to the food, connect them in the home, and really have great experiences.
Great. Well, thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Great to see you.